Hey, what's going on guys, Chris here with a guide on the Russian 1895 in Battlefield 1. Despite being called the Russian, the model 1895 is actually a Winchester lever action rifle which was first produced in the USA, and originally intended to use for hunting and sport. At the beginning of World War I, the Russian army were a huge threat to the Germans, down to the sheer number of troops they had. Though despite being a powerful land force, they lacked a few key components: equipment, supplies, and most importantly, weapons. The standard Russian infantry rifle around at the time was the model 1891 Mosin Nagant, which was an albeit effective rifle, but there just simply wasn't enough of them around, so the Russians needed to look for more weaponry overseas, which led to the importation of up to 300,000 US-made Winchester model 1895s, which were manufactured specifically for the Russian Empire between 1915 and 1917, and accounted for roughly 70% of the rifle's overall production. These sporting rifles were modified for use for the Russian army, and included a mount for bayonets, a longer barrel length, a charging bar which allowed the gun to load stripper clips, and it was also rechambered to use the Russian smokeless rifle ammunition. These versions were adopted by Imperial Russia as the Model 1915, down to them being available by that time, though final deliveries concluded in 1917 when the Russian army was withdrawn from the Great War and had to face civil war and the Russian Revolution, which brought about the rise of the Soviet Union. It's been said that a lot of the Russian Model 95s were sent over to Spain to be used by the Republican forces during the Spanish Civil War, and many were even later re-imported back into the States in the 1960s, and sold to collectors for reasonable prices. Now in Battlefield 1, the Russian 1895 is a scout and cavalry weapon, with a total of 4 variations being available. The 3 Model 1895s for the scout class include the trench, sniper and infantry variants, and the one for the cavalry kit is, well, quite aptly named the cavalry. And all of these 4 versions perform a little bit differently to one another, so I'll be going over these differences more so later on in the guide. But for now, it's time to check out those general stats and see how the Model 1895 compares to the other weapons. Taking a look at the damage values, the gun's going to deal its minimum damage of 80 up to 40 meters, which is where the damage will start to increase over distance up to its maximum of 100 at 60 meters. This is where the one-hit kill sweet spot begins, all the way up to 100 meters, which is where it'll start to decline, back to its original minimum damage of 80, at 140 meters and beyond. So in layman's terms, the rifle's going to drop an enemy with one hit to the body in a single bullet, if said enemy lies between the range of 60 to 100 meters of your current position. Otherwise, it's often going to take 2 bullets to bring them down, unless they've already been weakened, or unless that bullet smacks them right in the face. The one-hit kill sweet spot for the Russian 95 covers a 40 meter zone, and this zone is further out than some of the other rifles such as the SMLE and the Martini Henry, though not quite as far away as the likes of the M1903 and the Gewehr 98, kinda putting it in the middle. This means that it's generally a better scout weapon for medium to longer range sniper showdowns, rather than for dealing with people closer up, though it's still not going to take out someone at very long distances quite as easily either. The 40 meter sweet spot zone is also a bit smaller than most of the other rifles' zones, apart from the SMLEs, but this means that a target is less likely to lie within that zone whilst you go about your battlefield business. Rate of fire is actually slightly quicker than most of the other scout weapons, shooting those bullets out at 56 RPM. It's not miles faster, but it could make the difference when going up against another sniper in a head-to-head battle. Just like the M1903, the Russian 95's muzzle velocity clocks in at 820 meters per second, which is quite speedy. It's not the fastest, and you'll still probably need to lead moving targets slightly, but because the bullet speed is on the quicker side, it should make it easier to kill enemies further away than some of the other rifles, as you're probably not going to need to lead their movements quite as much. But anyway, let's check out those 4 different variants, with the first one being the Infantry, which plays out just like other scout infantry variants. It features standard iron sights and lets you recover from recoil 50% faster, along with it having a 50% quicker hip-fire recovery rate too. This is going to be more effective for taking on other players at closer to medium ranges, as you'll often be able to stay on target easier and gun them down more effectively, as the gun resets itself from recoil in a shorter amount of time after every shot. As for the sniper variant, this one gives you some special optics for added zoom, along with a bipod for extra stability. The sniper variant also, for some reason, has a much lower recoil pattern and has been given an upwards figure of 0.4 and a horizontal figure of just 0.1, along with less spread per shot and a reduction to its hipfire base spread too. Funnily enough though, none of this really matters, down to you having to independently unscope after every shot anyway. But I guess it does let you see the kill better, which is always a satisfying thing. And the sniper variant is still the best one to use for longer range fights, with those extra attachments fitted onto it. The trench variant on the other hand looks and feels a bit like the infantry variant, but plays out as a very different kind of weapon, in the sense that its fire rate has been amped up to 124 RPM from 56. And it now has a completely different set of damage values, with a maximum figure of 79 up to 10 meters, and a minimum figure of 40 beyond 40 meters. This means that it's going to take at least 2 bullets to kill an opponent with full health up close, and 3 further away at medium distances and beyond. Because it has a slower bullet velocity of just 580 meters per second, this makes it a pretty cruddy gun to use at longer distances. But up close though, having a fire rate which is more than twice as fast as the infantry, and being able to kill in the same amount of bullets, makes the trench variant a much more reliable weapon at these closer ranges. Hipfire also has less spread too, not that you'll be firing from the hip very much, but it's still slightly better if you, for some reason, choose to do so. Finally, moving on to the cavalry exclusive variant. This one almost mirrors the trench, with exactly the same damage values and fire rate, but the main differences between the two variants is that the cavalry version has a slightly quicker muzzle velocity of 610 meters per second instead of 580, and it's also got the same recoil decrease advantage as the infantry variant also, being able to recover 50% faster from recoil after every shot. The trench variant has that hipfire bonus instead, which, let's face it, definitely isn't going to be a deal breaker for this rifle, making the cavalry variant an overall better version of the trench. But because you can't just pick the cavalry variant anytime you'd like to, in a way this kinda makes it a bit special, and more exclusive to anyone using the cavalry kit. So overall, the Russian 1895 is a bit of a mid-ground weapon for the scout class, as it doesn't really have any dominant strengths or weaknesses at particular ranges, and generally feels quite well rounded, apart from the trench and cavalry variants, which are more geared up for shorter ranges. The quicker than average bullet velocity is good for taking out other players over distance, and its fire rate is on the higher side too, letting you get that next shot out a tiny bit faster. Its sweet spot zone isn't the biggest, and can sometimes be a bit difficult to judge properly with it starting at 60 meters. But as a whole, it's a versatile weapon that doesn't really cater for closer or longer range firefights specifically, but still covers them all well enough anyway. So that's just about it for this time guys, thanks for watching, be sure to check out loads more Battlefield 1 guides and other stuff on my channel, and like and subscribe if you want to. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.